April 2nd, 2022 will be a special day to me because this is the first time I am hosting a guest from different counties, and this is my first live recording of my podcast, Unedited Voices podcast, which focuses on self-awareness, talent, and business and motivation. So today we are here to talk about grooming today's man, how cultures and trends have affected today's man, and how we can continue to complement today's man and still maintain our cultures, because we cannot run away from our cultures, but we can cope up with the changing trends. And to just be with me through this session is a guest all the way from Marsabit County, the founder of Young Mentorship community program in Marsabit. He's here today with us, Mr. Sammy. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to welcome Sammy. Kubwa, asante sana for being here with me. Sijui unafeel aje the first day umekuja Nairobi and you're here with Poeta on the podcast show?
Okay, I'm feeling good. And above all, I'm so much grateful for your invite, and I'm honored to be your guest.
Yes.
And hopefully we are going to do great, and we are going to learn a lot about the culture.
We will. For me, it's an honor because I remember calling you and nikakuuliza, unajua wewe unatoka Marsabit na tuko Nairobi. Do you think this is something you can be viable to do? Because Marsabit na hapa ni mbali sana. How long does it take to come from Marsabit to this place?
Okay, it takes roughly 10 to 12 hours, depending on the area that you came from. If you might be traveling from Marsabit town directly to Nairobi, you'll be traveling via the tarmac road. But
Yes.
if you are from the interior part, you'll be traveling from a tarmac road, that is Moran road, which is a bit hectic. It will be tiresome for you to travel for all those hours. Sometimes it forces you to spend in Isiolo or Nanyuki, in one of the places.
Interesting. We were talking about, even before just doing this recording, we were talking about road trips and how the young people, sisi watu wa Nairobi tumezoea road trips za Naivasha or Nakuru, and then we're thinking about ati hiyo ni road trip. And ulikuwa unaniambia now that's the real road trip. So huko kukuja it takes like, you said 10 hours, right? Na watu wakitaka kukuja huko, what are the things they can really want to come and witness in Marsabit?
When you are planning to travel to Marsabit, actually you should prepare yourself. You are going to a harsh environment. To me, I can say Marsabit is one of the unique counties within Kenya, because the headquarters of the counties are based in an highland.
Yes.
It's a dry highland, not wet highland.
Okay.
And when you go to the lower parts, you will face the typical Chalbi desert, the one you learn in the books. Yeah. So when you will be in Marsabit, you will learn a lot about the dry highland and about the deserts. Yeah.
And Lake Turkana.
Yeah.
So it's
and also
like
don't forget
fun,
that Marsabit is the one which is having the, I think, is the second largest power generating plant in East Africa. That is the Lake Turkana wind power project.
Wow, amazing. I'm sure most guys didn't know that, but at least now you know that there's a lot of resources that are being harnessed in Lake Turkana, Marsabit County. So today you're here courtesy of our theme, Grooming Today's Man, and it's about redefining the masculinity. So tell us about Youth Mentorship community program. What is it exactly that you do under your program?
Okay, the Young Mentorship community program is a CBO based in Marsabit. Basically, we do more of mentorship programs to all genders. We have to respect the gender disparity. But we have a sub-theme or a subtopic that leads us, or a project that is entitled to Boy Child Empowerment. And the reason as to why I have included this theme into my project is that when we go around Kenya or even the neighboring countries, you get that girls are more empowered, and then the boy child has been left behind.
Okay.
That has been a very big concern to me, and I decided to come up with that. And actually what I'm doing is to engage these boys in activities such as planting trees and giving them responsibilities. So you plant a tree, you want that tree until it grows up. So when you give a man a responsibility that you should be taking care of this, that young boy grows up as a responsible man. And then they will also get empowered. Ladies are empowered, girls are empowered, and then the boys are left behind. So, and also the culture is affecting us.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you've talked about a culture, and I think even that's why you're here in Nairobi, for us to learn about the Moran culture and also Nairobi people or just other Kenyans to pick up with the culture and see how are men being raised in the Moran culture and how are we raising men in these other different cultures. Let's say like the urban setup. So tell us more about the Moran culture. You are talking about at a certain age, the boys undergo circumcision.
Yeah.
And most of them after circumcision wanaonaga sasa hao washakuwa wanaume, so hata mambo ya shule wengine wanaweza opt to drop out. Tell us more about that.
Okay, in my culture, that is the Rendile Samburu culture, it's meanders between. We have a certain grace period for the boys to be circumcised. The first generation that I was in, we have finished 15 years after our circumcision. We have been circumcised in the year 2006 when we were still young. And then we beat all around up to 15 years. And the second generation was circumcised last year. And today, as we speak, any man who is undergoing circumcision changed from the kind of life that they used to live in. Now, circumcision comes in and after 15 years of the previous generation. And then once the boy is circumcised, there's now that variation. You have been separated from your mom, that is eating from your mom pots. So a man will be feeding himself in the bush, he will be cooking in the bush. The only thing that your mom does is place the foodstuffs in a certain place, a very logical place where you can be able to get it without women seeing it, then you go and cook it for yourself. So growing in Marsabit, growing in Rendile and Samburu culture, or generally in the northern part of Kenya, for the people in Nairobi will be a bit difficult for them because they are used to, we say it, hand-to-mouth activities. But there you will be grown in a very different way. You will be feeding in the bush, you will be cooking for yourself, because now when you are circumcised, you have now become a responsible person. So that's now the way where a man is being trained. After the 15 years, he will get married. How will you carry on with your family?
Right.
So Moran culture is a bit difficult for the Nairobi people. And I think one day you will visit there and you will enjoy it.
I will.
Yeah.
I will. I'm planning to visit just to see for myself, because we have been reading about all this, the culture in the books or maybe documentaries, but now it's also a good thing to come and actually see and interact. And you've said after 15 years now, the boys are ready to be men, and now they're ready to own responsibilities. Has there been a scenario where other boys don't want to go through that initiation process, where they don't want to be circumcised, maybe they are woke, and now they just want to follow a different way of initiation, or it's a mandatory?
The Rendile and Samburu culture is a mandatory for a boy to be circumcised.
Okay.
Because we have this tendency of some boys, we call them, their parents are learned or they have gone to school, so they are being taken to the hospital, they are circumcised there, but the culture says a real man and a real warrior in the community should undergo a bare knife circumcision.
A bare knife circumcision.
Yeah. So that's now the only time that even the other Morans will recognize you as a real man. Because if you will be circumcised in hospital, you will be injected, so there's no pain that you will undergo.
Okay.
So for us to have a real man, like I myself underwent a bare knife.
A bare knife.
Very early in the morning, raining, and then you feel the cut itself.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if you've talked about a real man and the fact that these other boys, maybe the ones who have chosen the hospital way of circumcision, it differentiates them or it isolates them from the meaning of a real man culture in the Rendile community. So what do you guys mean by real men? Because we've been having an issue with that, even in Nairobi here, where there are men and then there are real men, where somebody tells you you're not a real man. So what's the definition of a real man in the Rendile culture?
The definition of a real man is a man who has underwent a bare knife. You've been circumcised in front of everybody. You bear the pain of that bare knife compared to somebody who has been circumcised in hospital. So the reason as to why most of the parents are discouraging the hospital circumcision is once their son are back to the village, they will feel stigmatized. They will be called you are the sons of Nairobi. You cannot go and fight, maybe even there is a war or there is a conflict in between. A real man should always be ready to go and face because of the pain that you have undergone. But for the Nairobi kids, those who have been circumcised in hospital, they don't feel the pinch of that pain. So for us, we encourage our boys to be circumcised barely from the local perspective part of it, for them to grow in that respectable manner in the society. You will be identified as a real man once you have undergone the circumcision. Then after now you are circumcised, your father will now take the role of ensuring that you have grown in a culture whereby you learn that a man should always stand by its own. What do I mean by that? I mean that you will be being told to go and take care of the flock of the animals you have, the herd of the cattle you have. How will you take them care of if you are not brave enough? So your father will have responsibilities of growing you up in a very bravery manner. Yeah.
So from my own understanding is the circumcision, the going for the cut, the traditional way is basically to imply about confidence,
the bravery in you, not the confidence, not necessarily the confidence, but the bravery. You will bear the 3 to 5 minutes cut, and it's a bare skin.
Bare skin.
Tell me the pain that you will undergo. So if you bear it to the 5 minutes or the minutes that the circumciser will take, then that one indicates that you are a real man. You are brave enough.
Okay, nice. I love it. And I love how the process of bravery is illustrated through a purposeful pain. I call it a purposeful pain because it's not a pain that you have to bear, but it's a pain that comes with a certain title, which is now the bravery. And let me ask, so a young boy who's circumcised from Marsabit County comes to Nairobi County. Now this is a different kind of culture. How do they, like, have you ever had those circumstances where they come from now Marsabit, where they are considered, real men, bravery and all that, and then they come to this county? How does that affect them?
Personally, I have that experience because I've been circumcised when I was in Standard 7. And after my Form 4, I went to Kisii. That is where I studied.
Right.
The fact that culture is in me, for the first year and second year, I really faced a lot of challenges because in my culture, a woman should not feed me. A woman should not serve me the meal. I could be serving myself or I could be cooking for myself. But going to campus was a bit hectic for 2 years because having in mind that I'm a Moran, I'm a circumcised man, how can a woman dare to feed me? And yet I've not finished the grace period of Moranism. So it took me 2 years to adapt the life. And I think most of the men who have been circumcised in my area also undergo the same. When they come to Nairobi, there's that fear of being fed by a woman.
Right.
But with time, we try to cope up. So actually, what currently I'm doing as the founder for the CBO is to encourage these boys not to go and live with that retrogressive culture. We want them to learn that circumcision is only a mark. Circumcision is only a mark that is differentiating you from boyhood to adulthood.
Right.
So I do encourage them that these issues of not feeding at home, you are a school-going kid, you are in Standard 7 and you are circumcised, you are in Standard 5 and you are circumcised, and sometimes you cannot get the feeding program in school. So you have to go home and feed. So for the Morans, they can't go for lunch. Till the late at night, then they will cook. So you get most of them become emaciated. So for me, as a learned person, and for me who has undergone that retrogressive culture, so I learned that these cultures does not add anything important to my life. It only ruins my thinking. So I decided to base on my activities to encourage these boys not to think on the culture perspective, but also to have the learned mind, to be literate rather than staying in the illiteracy form. So from 2019, 2020, there are some changes. Some boys are still taking lunch at their own mother's home, despite the stigmatization from others. But I do encourage them that there's no difference, because if you feed from home or you don't feed from home, the same meal that you'll be cooking in the bush is the same woman who was provided to you. Exactly. So what could be the difference?
Exactly.
So that's now the kind of language I'm using to entice them to feed at home and also to grow as a responsible people or responsible men.
And I really appreciate you for having the bravery to, take that up, because going against the grain or even going against the culture, it has really put people into spaces where they cannot even bear, because it's like wewe uko peke yako na unajaribu kufight culture ile imekuanga all that time. You'll be seen as an outcast, or you'll be seen as somebody who doesn't respect the culture. And you talked about women. You talked about the feeding program where women cannot feed the men when they haven't cleared that initiation process. And today, under this theme, you're talking about grooming today's man. And basically, it's about how are women supporting the men. Because vile ulianza interview ulikuwa unasema the girl child has been empowered and the boy child akakuwa isolated. But right now, we're also focusing on the boy child. And it's not about a competition or a comparison, but it's about how can we be able to complement each other to make sure that we create a coexistence kind of environment. So tell me about, in the Marsabit, the Moran culture, how are women supporting the boys, even the girls supporting the boys, or the women supporting the men? How is this a thing?
Okay. In my CBO, I also have ladies. We do the activities together.
Right.
And what basically we do is to ensure that when we talk about this retrogressive culture, first of all, before we go to the men, because we know the major challenge comes from the elders. So we do empower the elders first, that as long as a boy is going to school, there are some things, there's some aspect of culture that need to be eradicated.
Right.
We gave them so many examples of the emaciated boys. A boy is in class, but they can't concentrate because their stomachs are empty. They will be in school since in the morning, and then they will be taking their, I don't know what we can call it, they will be taking their combined lunch and supper at around 1 a.m. at night. So you see, it's challenging to them. So what we do with the ladies that I have in my CBO is, as I speak to these young boys,
Right.
we also give these ladies chance to come and tell these boys that if you won't eat the meal that I cook, it's the same woman. Your mother is a woman like me,
Right.
and then they provide the meal for you. Now, what could be the difference? A woman is just a woman, whether you are married or not. So the ladies do encourage them in a way that you feel like if you take the food that your mom has put aside, she's a woman. And then if you as a lady and then you provide also meal for them, it's the same woman which we will be providing for them. We do give them this challenge. When they go to a hotel, they will be served by a woman. Now, what's the difference between a woman in urban centers or in Nairobi and a woman in Marsabit? Is there any difference? No. So when we share those ideas with them, they also feel it for themselves. We give them an assignment. Go and rethink about it. You are in Nairobi. It's only a woman who is available to serve you. Are you going to starve for the whole month because women are there? So they do buy the idea, and they try. So basically what we do, we have to empower the elders first. Then when the elders accepted the issue of the retrogressive culture towards the school-going boys, then the boys will also get learned. Because you will get somebody and he will tell you that my dad will beat me up. What will you tell that boy? No, you tell them that we have empowered your father. Your sister who has undergone the FGM. But currently, your younger sister is not undergoing FGM. Why? Because they have been empowered on the effect of the FGM. Now what we are doing is to empower you on the effect of this culture, especially towards your growth, academic growth, and your future. Because if you grow in that retrogressive culture, my friend, you cannot be able even to live in Nairobi. So what we do is we try to empower them. We try to bring ladies in. Because if we talk about the menstrual hygiene, men are there to talk about it.
Right.
If we talk about the issue of retrogressive culture, the feeding programs, women should also be in so that they give us backup. Yeah, so those are some of the factors and the methods we use to ensure that these boys are empowered, these boys are, their minds are open.
Interesting. That's an interesting, and I really appreciate you for bringing out that. It shows there's a cohesion of complementary. People are really complementing each other. And let's talk about the issues now affecting the boy child, because like when you talk about Nairobi, or we talk about the general man, you're being faced with issues like depression, because the way society has put it, the men should not talk about their issues. They should be like superheroes. So is this also something that is witnessed in the Marsabit area, in Samburu and Rendile? Tell us about that.
Yeah.
What are the issues facing the boy child in the Rendile and Moran culture?
The main issues which are facing them in the real culture are things like the one that we have spoken about. The issue of men not addressing their own challenges to women, or addressing their challenges in public. But those are some years back. In the current society where we are, especially to the elders, once there's something I've forgotten about, and I want to remind you about the issues of the early pregnancies. We have an issue whereby if a boy is circumcised, after circumcision, that boy is now meant they can experiment, they can see if they can be able to reproduce. And that one has brought a lot of school dropout issues. So what we do is we empower them, the issues of early marriages or the early pregnancies, and also the issues of the STDs, or the HIV and AIDS and other sexual transmitted infections. So what we gonna do is, once a boy has undergone the cut, we start immediately after circumcision level, during the grace period of the 3 months that the boys will be under custody of the elderly Moran, or the grown-ups Moran. So we start from there to empower them on the issues of this culture, that circumcision does not mean that you are in a position to give birth, because most of them, they do pregnant these ladies and then they go away. So the burden will remain with the parents, and this boy will be told, young man, you just give us a cow and then it's over. So you exchange a 9-month pregnancy with a heifer. You see? So culture somehow is affecting the people, but we are actually fighting with it. And we hope that in the coming years, the retrogressive culture will reduce its effect the way we are trying to do it now.
Thank you, Sana Sam, for bringing us up to speed on that. And just before we conclude this podcast, there's this segment, the last segment that we normally want to conclude with our guests, and it's about misconceptions. Like, what's the biggest misconception for you as a man? What's the biggest misconception that you don't even want to continue believing in?
Okay, the main issue the misconception that always based in our area is that a man is always a man. You should stand by your own problems. But to me, I shouldn't stand and support that, because no human is capable to carry their own challenges on their own way.
Right.
So as a man in Rendile land, as a man in Samburu land, should not stand and say, I can be able to fight my problems alone. There is no way. 2 heads are better than one.
2 heads are better than one.
And the way my culture says is that if you are a man to stand alone. But to me, I can't stand and conquer that. That is why I do more of this mentorship program to the boys, that you should not stand alone. A woman can be able to help you to overcome the challenge you are undergoing. Rather than keeping for yourself, you are sick. Because you are Moran, you are not going to hospital. So you will be started consuming the local herbs. These local herbs are not helping you. Maybe, for instance, you are an HIV victim. You have been infected without you knowing. You have never gone for a test. The disease has grown in you. So you keep on taking these herbs, and the herbs are not bringing any change to you until the time that you will become worse, to be taken to hospital, for you to be diagnosed what kind of disease you are suffering from. So to me, what I can say is, we have to empower these boys that no man can stand alone. We have to interact. Ladies also are knowledgeable enough to give us the knowledge that we don't have. So what I do encourage is, let us have an inclusivity in everything we do. Let us include men in ladies' talk. Let us include ladies in men's talk, so that we can be able to share the differences we have. A lady can ask a question that concerns one of the men within the congregation of men that we have. And then a man can ask a question that might be affecting a lady among the ladies that we have. So from the interaction that we'll be having from different genders, we will learn. So that one will bring an avenue whereby men are given an opportunity to speak in front of women, and women are also given an opportunity to speak in front of men. And this one will now bring a society whereby everybody has a liberal mind and everybody is enlightened to these different things of the life. Because now ladies in this forum are learning about the issues of culture, the issues of once a Moran is circumcised, there's no lady who can be able to say no to sexual activity with them. They will allow because he's now an adult. But from this forum,
shouldn't be the case.
Shouldn't be like that. Circumcision does not entitle you to go and have sex wherever you want. And the ladies in this forum will also learn that circumcision cannot entitle men to come and demand sex activities from them. They have also to defend themselves. And the men in this forum will also learn that circumcision cannot entitle them, cannot give them the key or the way to have sex with any other woman. So when we have those kind of collaboration in it, then this culture will be eradicated, though we cannot eradicate 100% of it, but the main retrogressive part of it, the issues of sexuality, the issues of not feeding in front of women, the issues of women not feeding men, will be minimal compared to the previous years that these men were not taught about it.
I totally agree. And it's about transforming narratives. And ladies and gentlemen, that's why we're here today to talk about cultures and trends and how are men being groomed in our societal setups. Today it was about how do women come through for the men and how do men come through for the women, because it's about complementing each other. It's not about competition. So let's replace competition with complementing each other. And at the end of the day, we'll be able to live harmoniously and being able to just learn about each other's weaknesses and strengths. And that's basically is the definition of self-awareness. So I want to thank you. First of all, thanks to my guest here, Mr. Sammy, all the way from Marsabit. I'll still continue talking about Marsabit. So thank you. It's been a great day and a great session. We have talked about grooming today's man. And yes, let's continue the conversations on social media and be able to continue this conversation even in our home setups as we continue to learn and unlearn. I've been your host, Poeta. Thank you for staying with me throughout the session.